Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia. Listen up. WynnBET is now live in all these states, and the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas has finally landed in online sports betting and casino play. From boosted parlays to live in-game offs on every major sport, WynnBET gives you the tools to win. Sign up today for your risk-free $1,000 sports bet. Download the WynnBET app now or visit wynnbet.com to start winning.
You're listening to Mile High Insiders with Nick Kendell and Luke Patterson. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos. Now, it's time to find out what's going on behind the walls of UC Health Training Center.
Just like, man, there we go. Boom, Saturday night. Welcome in, everybody. It is a holiday weekend. It is November 27th, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, and Mile High Insiders. I am Nick Kendell, joined by Luke Patterson as always. Luke, how you doing? Happy belated Thanksgiving. Happy holidays.
Yeah, man. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays. Happy football. Happy football is finally coming back. The bye week. What a crazy week. It was not boring for Broncos country. And man, speaking of not boring, college football today, right? We were talking about that before the show came on. So rolling in from your Thanksgiving weekend from some college football over to MHI before we get you over to the Broncos and pro football tomorrow, man. I'm pumped to be back.
Yeah, I'm pumped to be back too. I'm also really excited about college football, like you mentioned. Obviously, the draft is going to be coming up here pretty soon, but we have some meaningful football for the Broncos, so that's maybe a little bit further on the horizon for that one. But my Hawkeyes going to Indianapolis to play Michigan in the Big Ten Championship, so got to celebrate that. Everyone drink Saturday night, and I mentioned the Hawkeyes already, so let's have a fun time. We got Jay's in the house, and it seems like it's been forever and a day since I have seen Chubb play. Hopefully, he can make it through the rest of the year, so he can be evaluated for his contract coming up. That's a good point. We got Todd Ostendorf is in the house too. Good to see you, Todd. Todd and Jay going at it there for a bit in the comment section. We got James Koch in here. Tomorrow's game, expecting good things from Broncos tomorrow. Heck yeah, James, we love the positivity. We want it. We'll get what we can. Dylan Von Ark, sup Broncos country. Make sure you guys hit the like button on the way in. Thank you very much, Dylan. And we also got Della Barker in the house. It's Sunday Night Football Broncos, or Saturday Night Football for the Broncos tonight. So we do have a Sunday night game coming up next week. We do have stars from Dave as well. If Scott, if you want to pull that up, I don't know where those are exactly, but we'll get into the intro here, guys. This is obviously, there we go. Dave Glassman. Boom, Dave, with the stars.
Dave.
Thank you so much, Dave. You're the man. For some reason, it comes in grayscale there, and that's amazing. Also, we got Lawrence coming in just in time. Stars from Lawrence, Luke, and Nick, my two favorites. What's up, guys? Lawrence, that means so much. Thank you so much for the kind comments. Obviously, this is Mile High Insiders. We're at you guys live every Saturday evening at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. You can follow Scott, or you can follow Luke and myself and Scott also. Luke's on Twitter at Luke Patterson LP. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH, and also Scott working behind the scenes at Scout Kennedy. Also, you guys make sure if you're on Twitter, following us at MHI_pod and at Mile High Huddle. Holidays right around the corner, so we have to give you the Mile High Huddle plug. Luke is rocking that comfy, warm sweatshirt there. Luke, I cannot get sweatshirt and sweater right for the life of me. Like, I'll never get it right.
I wear this thing like every day, man. It's a religious thing, man. I love throwing on a little bit of orange and blue in the morning. Mile High Huddle. Grab yourself a hoodie. Grab yourself a hat. They've got coffee mugs, even stuff for your kids, stuff for your partner as well. The holidays are coming up, so happy holidays from MHH. And while we're talking about holidays, guys, and all the ways you can support MHH, just to let you know, sending stars is an awesome way to support MHH. It allows us to keep the lights on. It allows us to keep bringing new content without any of those monthly subscriptions or anything like that. We've got something working, something special down the pipes for y'all. Sit tight. Chad has always had a real generous heart when it came to our community, and still does, and is always coming up with new ways to appreciate you guys. So know that in the past, as we've done jersey giveaways and things of that nature, we've got something coming for everybody that's donating those stars. So stay tuned for that. But again, huddleuppod.com, get your swag on, and get over to the mothership on Twitter at Mile High Huddle as well. You can find all of our written content to the other pods. You see Nick all over on YouTube every day, practically, for Broncos for Breakfast. He's got Building the Broncos as well. He's always subbing in on other shows. And you'll have the Huddle Up Boys tomorrow. So stay tuned to Broncos country. But here we go. Bradley Chubb has been activated from IR. Nick, is this a dream? Is number 55 suiting up tomorrow? Is he playing? I mean, wow, I didn't know he was going to be back this fast. I'm a little surprised, if I'm being honest. I feel like I'm a little off guard.
Listen up, Broncos country. TickPick should be your first choice to buy football tickets because they save fans money by never charging any service fees ever. TickPick is the exclusive ticketing partner for the Huddle Up podcast and the Blue Wire Network.
Denver Broncos football is finally back, and there's no need to exhaust yourself searching all over the internet to find Broncos tickets anymore because TickPick, that's TickPick, is the original no-fee ticket site and the only one you'll ever need as your go-to for all NFL tickets. TickPick got rid of all those awful service fees that the other ticket sites charge, which lets them guarantee the best prices on all of their NFL tickets. Don't believe it? If you can find better prices for the same seats on another ticket site, TickPick will give you 110% of the difference in the purchase price.
That's right, guys. When we were searching for tickets for the MHH meet and greet for week 3 at home, Broncos versus Jets, TickPick had us locked down. So visit tickpick.com/huddle today and use the promo code HUDDLE to save $10 on your first order of Broncos tickets.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, they're probably how I'm feeling right now, holding your breath, right? Like, I'm excited to have Bradley Chubb back. This team needs him desperately. Obviously, Malik Reed has been an issue in the run defense there, and the Broncos have not been getting pass rush consistently since, honestly, their 3-game win streak to start the season when Von Miller was on a tear, and the Jonathan Cooper game against Dallas as well. But Bradley Chubb back, the 5th overall pick back in 2018. He hasn't lived up to that billing, but the Broncos really need him back. I just hope he can stay healthy, right? Like there was like a small setback this week too. Was he going to go? Was he not going to go? He's going, probably going to be on a limited count, but even if he's just out there a little bit and can stay healthy, I'll take it because we have not had enough of that during his career in Denver.
It's going to be tough. It's hard to say, what Bradley Chubb's role is going to look like tomorrow, but someone's role that I never question, our guy, Mohamed Badri, coming in with the $2 super. Appreciate you so much, saying my favorite guys. We appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving, Mo. Bradley Chubb, I don't know what it's going to look like tomorrow. I expect him to be in shoulder pads. I wrote about it a little bit on MileHighHuddle.com as a keys to victory that Jonathan Cooper's got to have a great game against Slater, that rookie left tackle, doing big things over there for the Los Angeles Chargers. Well, if Chubb's coming into the mix, I'm a little nervous, if I'm being honest. I think he was a little bit rushed last time he came back from injury, and here we go. You start to see the wheels fall off the cart with more injuries stacking up. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to pretend to be. I'm not either Bradley Chubb, so I don't know how the man feels, but I would assume they handle him with kid gloves a little bit. I think George Payton still wants to see if he can get a return on investment, even though Bradley Chubb wasn't the player that he selected for that draft. The Broncos have a ton invested in Bradley Chubb, and you've got to see if it equates on the field.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you so much for the stars, Travis. Always coming in, very consistent, supporting us over on Facebook, giving us those stars. You guys can get in stars on Facebook or the super chats over on YouTube, and make sure you're following us at both those sites as well for Mile High Huddle. Bradley Chubb coming back. I mean, what do you expect from Bradley Chubb the rest of the season? Because I'm even afraid to have any expectations for him. They held him out week 1. It's going to be, we're finally going to get Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. Obviously, poof, that goes up in smoke. But this is an important stretch here for Bradley Chubb and the Broncos. I mean, they do not have an edge rusher of his prestige, I guess is the word. Maybe quality is the wrong word, but the prestige. And this team has not consistently gotten after the quarterback. So if he can be a difference maker for them on the defensive side down the stretch, I mean, dare I say maybe he's the catalyst for this defense and getting this team over that playoff hump?
I guess my expectation for Bradley Chubb, and that's a really good question because it's a hard one to answer, Nick. I think the kind of smart ass in me wants to say, stay healthy. Well, that's not always in his control, right? Yeah. So
but it's right. I mean,
it's hard.
Right. Yeah.
It's just hard. It's the guy's not asking to get hurt, but I mean, availability is something that is very significant in the NFL. And I guess if I had to put an expectation on Bradley Chubb, I want him to play desperate. I want him to play like his pants are on fire, hat on fire. I don't know, whatever the saying is. I want him to play like that because he's starting to see his guys, Cortland Sutton, getting paid. Tim Patrick is an undrafted guy getting paid. You're starting to see George Payton select his core guys on this team right now. You got to know Bradley Chubb wants to be one of them. He's considered a leader on that team in his own right when he is on the field, Nick. So what do I expect from him? Desperate play, desperate effort, at an attitude, a little bit of grit, something. And it'll be interesting to see what Bradley Chubb looks like post Von Miller. I mean, we got a lot of, pushback and rightfully so from Broncos country on Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. They never really came to all the expectations and answered that bell. Well, Bradley Chubb's been playing without Von Miller, and Von Miller's been playing without Bradley Chubb, but now Von's not on the team. What's that look like for number 55? What does his personality look like as a leader? Those are interesting things and an interesting dynamic. Really curious to see what Bradley Chubb looks like out there, because he might be mild-mannered, Nick, but he likes to let it be known, his presence on the field and his opinions and some of those things too. So I'm excited to see Bradley Chubb back out there. He brings an energy to the Broncos that's well received.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the Broncos dropping edge rushers and off-ball linebackers like flies this season, we saw it in many of these recent games where they've lost, especially in the games where you've gone up against really good offensive lines, the Browns and the Eagles specifically. The edge rush position and the off-ball linebacking position were targeted, and big issues for that Broncos on defense, getting just gashed play after play, especially on the ground game. So I'm excited to see it. It's not just the pass rush for Chubb. He is 6'4", 275, 270. I mean, he's like your classic, hand in the dirt edge rusher. He can do some stand up too, but they need that ability.
You're exactly right. I mean, 6'4", 275 pounds. The Broncos sent the release at 1:30 this afternoon, looking at the email now. And man, last time we saw this cat, Nick, week 2 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, holy cow. He was placed on IR on September 22nd and has missed weeks 3 through 11. Bradley Chubb there's no time to wait. He was a Pro Bowl selection in 2020. Chubb started all 35 games. He's got decent amount of stats, I guess, but not being on the field has just absolutely killed his, I don't want to say reputation, because I think he has a decent reputation, but it's put water on that hot fizzle that we saw initially with Bradley Chubb. And it's really, really frustrating to see. And the hardest thing for me, Nick, when I'm talking about Bradley Chubb right now, I keep thinking about what you asked me, expectations. It's so hard to have expectations with Chubb, because you don't know what you're going to get in terms of health.
Yeah, you just got to go out there, and obviously something else that people don't really think about, it's not just the health factor, it's the conditioning. Now, it's not like Bradley Chubb was out there getting 20 plates of stuffing and, gravy boats with the peas in it multiple times at Thanksgiving. He's watching his diet, but as far as conditioning on the field, getting those reps in, it's going to take a couple games probably to really get his feet wet, so to speak, and show that he can be conditioned to that level. And Scott brings up a good point on the back end here. The team that maybe, I would say there is desperation for Chubb to get out there, but there's not desperation so much for the Broncos to maximize Chubb here to get a clean evaluation on him. Broncos picked up before the season, they picked up his 5th-year option, $12.7 million guaranteed. I can't think of, there's some scenario where you can make it not guaranteed anymore, but for the way they, after the last CBA, it's almost 100% guaranteed for those 5th-year options on the first-round picks. So Chubb you got another year left to figure out where he really fits in this Broncos team as far as long-term expectations, second contract, if he's a guy you want to build your defensive line around and show him the money.
That's a really good point from Scott and you, Nick. And I guess I would use that to support the theory out there that I'm seeing kind of on the text line here. Maybe you don't need to rush Bradley Chubb. You do have him under contract. Maybe you need to handle him with those kid gloves, get him some snaps. And we got our pal coming in real quick saying, good evening, Luke, Nick, and Scott. I can see Bradley Chubb playing a quarter of the defensive plays, 25%. What do you guys think? I think that's a really fair evaluation. Man, that doesn't seem like a lot, but when a guy has missed weeks 3 through 11 of the regular season, I bet you he's still going to be feeling that at 25%. Do you think he's going to be handled with a snap count or a pitch count, Nick?
I think it's going to be a lot like the Jacksonville game where they get him out there and then it's like a drive-by-drive, snap-by-snap basis. It's like, okay, well, we're taking your temperature. Where are you at right now? How are you feeling? How's that ankle holding up? Are you good to go? And there could be something where he tweaks it. It's like, I'm not quite there yet. And then they pull him. That could easily happen. Or it could be, boom, Bradley Chubb's back. He's playing a solid game. He's gotten a couple of pressures against Rashawn Slater, doing some long arm moves on him. And Bradley Chubb, we're like, okay, this is our best pass rusher. He needs to go win us a game. If you're available, we need to call on you. And he comes out there and makes a play. So it could really go either way. I just want to see them maybe go snap by snap, drive by drive basis and take the temperature with him.
Well, and as you were explaining that, it got me thinking about what we know about Bradley Chubb. He knows his body, and he pulled himself from practice as well in some stretching periods, if I'm not mistaken, earlier this year. So maybe it's one of those things as well with taking this guy off of IR on Saturday night, you don't know where his status is. He's not on the injury report, right? It'd be like, is he questionable? We don't know.
Yeah.
It could be a game time decision. We don't know that. I mean, it's going to be bizarre. These things happen. Be sure to monitor Twitter tomorrow because all those things come out fast and furious on game day morning. But speaking of fast and furious, Michael, our guy, happy Thanksgiving, bud, showing us a little bit of love. Good evening, Luke and Nick on the MHI pod. Go Broncos. Nick, Broncos country, I feel like they're a little bit more caffeinated. They're a little bit more re-energized because, look, the Philly game, the Teddy Bridgewater thing, awful. Bad taste in your mouth for 2 weeks. How does George Payton turn it around? He inks a couple big deals for 2 wide receivers. He's got Broncos country buzzing. They've got a core group of guys. Do you feel like Broncos country is excited and up for this game for the Chargers? The second divisional game all the way, in week 12 now? It's bizarre. It doesn't really happen like this. What do you think the fan base is expecting from the Broncos tomorrow?
As far as just the game in general, I mean, with Chubb, you'd hopefully they're just see him out there and make a few plays and stay healthy. This Broncos team, I think that you're going to see, unfortunately, especially considering this is a 5-5 team in a game where if they win this, they're in the driver's seat. But I think there's going to be not a lot of fans in the stands. I think there's going to be a lot of empty seats out there. Unfortunately, it's a holiday.
Ooh.
It does seem like the interest in the team, the belief in the team is down. Now, that being said, fans are pretty, it's volatile. And this season has been volatile too. So you see the Broncos come out and win this game against the Chargers next week, and everybody in the city is going to be in. They're going to be the talk of the town again going into Arrowhead. Oh man, if Denver can just squeak out a game against Patrick Mahomes with how volatile they've been this season, you're in first place with only 5 games to go. But I do think that the fans themselves, they don't trust it. They want to buy in. They would love to love this team. But after seeing them lose some games in very ugly fashion, especially being pretty poor at home so far this season as well, I could see them not really show up. And I think last I saw, there was a decent amount of games or tickets on the secondary market still available.
You're exactly right, Nick. I mean, people are trying to get rid of these tickets, and it's bizarre.
5-5.
Yeah, especially Broncos. I mean, it's the Broncos they used to be the toast of the town, the cream of the crop, and getting your hands on Broncos tickets in this city was hard to do, and it was expensive. Now you're starting to see the price drop. You're starting to see fans voice their frustration. The only way they really can, we can all go to the Twitter machine. We can all fire out funny GIFs and stuff like that, but the bottom line is, if you were a fan and you were upset with the Broncos, the only way you can truly tell them that is by unsubscribing, not showing up, losing faith, losing interest. Joe Ellis takes a huge account of who's not there and the attendance levels, the revenue lost, if you will, at these home games. So I think that's a really interesting point. I'm curious to see how it looks in that stadium tomorrow. Anytime you have empty seats, it's not good. Anytime you have boo birds, it's not good. But Justin Herbert, Nick, this kid is for real. I mean, I watched a little bit more of that Steelers game today, and man, this guy's the Broncos, man. Another missed quarterback. There you go. Justin Herbert coming to the Mile High City. What do you think? I mean, this kid was an early MVP candidate, slowed down just a little bit, but Justin Herbert, in my opinion, is the real deal.
Oh, he's definitely the real deal. And I feel their offense. People get upset about like Pat Shurmur not making an offense to what his quarterback does best. And I think that Shurmur overall, when you look at his career numbers, actually does better than what his quarterback's career averages. Some people kind of are upset with how the lock thing went down. I get it. But Herbert is in a terrible offense for his system. Joe Lombardi, who comes from that Saints tree, wants to use Justin Herbert like a dead armed Drew Brees out there, where everything is like horizontal. They're not really pushing the ball vertically, and the offensive line isn't as bad as it used to be. So you don't have to protect them. So I don't know what they're doing. I equate it to having a Lamborghini and only driving it in school zones. It's like, what are you doing with this horizontal check down game? And it's good for Austin Eckler, but you got a guy with an incredible arm, top 5 arm talent, big frame, good athlete, push the ball vertically, and they just don't do that. So I'm really curious to see what this does, how it looks for him in this Broncos team. They don't have that speed threat to really unlock the defense vertically. I think they lost that with Tyrell Williams this last year, and they haven't been able to find that yet. Yeah. But still, I mean, Herbert has an absolute gun. He's incredible. His touch down the field is, one of the best in the league. I mean, not many quarterbacks, how cover 2 safeties, 2 of them split the field, and it's pretty hard to get that middle of the field zone unless you have a linebacker who's dropping way back, but you're not seeing that as much this year. Herbert can actually fit it between those 2 safeties. with on
Yeah.
a rope. There's not many guys who can do that. So
And
incredible quarterback.
it doesn't feel like much of a risk when he does it either.
Yeah.
He zips it in there, and
Mhm.
you could see his intellect picking up each game too. And I feel like sometimes he really is the smartest guy on the field. It's and you look at him and you try to analyze his attitude, his personality. It's hard to do when the guy is playing winning football and you can't get a good read on him. I think that's part of his mystique. I think he's a very well calibrated guy, 6'6", 237, and he can run too. People forget that this kid's got wheels. He can move, he can get out of trouble. But man, that arm, when you have a quarterback, good things happen for you. And
I said this last year too. Sorry to cut you off, but I said this
No,
last
you're good.
point on Herbert. This maybe is a little bit of a hot take, and I thought it was a hot take last year, but it's kind of coming to its own this season. Justin Herbert is who people think Josh Allen is. Justin people is who that's who they want. That's who they picture Josh Allen being. Justin Herbert, like the top end, Josh Allen is what Justin Herbert is. He's much accurate. He's much smarter with the football. He is better getting the ball to his checkdowns quickly. And Josh Allen this year, high variance player. He's regressing a bit this season, especially outside the pocket, under pressure. I mean, he cannot figure out cover two. Simply put, Josh Allen is struggling a lot against two deep safeties. Justin Herbert's playing better ball than Josh Allen. He might be a better quarterback than Josh Allen. I don't think we talk about that enough.
Ooh, yeah, no, that is interesting, especially when you look at the AFC and how tight the AFC is right now, right? We talk about the teams a lot, but when you start talking about the quarterbacks, and that's interesting. You look at where Josh Allen is in the Buffalo Bills and flip it over to the Chargers. Nick, you touched on something I wanted to go back to a little bit with the Los Angeles Chargers offensive line, right? We talked about Rashawn Slater. We both liked him coming out of Northwestern. The center, Lindsley, I think, for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think I saw a thing on Pro Football Focus saying he hasn't given up a sack this year. Man, that's pretty nasty. We know stats aren't everything, and I'm sure he's given up some hurries, some hits, things of those natures. But our good friend Michael Schofield is in at right guard. Broncos country will remember him, who was our swing tackle for a little bit with Tyler Columbus. But the interior defensive line for the Broncos, Draymond Jones, Shelby Harris, they're in for it this week. It's going to be a fight with the Chargers. No longer is it just the old stale slapped together offensive line that we're used to seeing with a Phillip Rivers that can't really move or operate. That's gone. They're trying to protect their first round quarterback. They're trying to protect Austin Eckler. They've got more than one dynamic receiver right now. What do you expect from the Broncos defensive line? Because Shelby Harris, I love batted balls. Don't get me wrong, but he's got a motor, man, and I want to see it in the backfield.
Well, big news for that to the Broncos defensive line is that Matt Filer is going to be a game time decision. He was a swing signing from the Steelers that the Chargers made this year, right tackle, and can play both guard positions. And we got Chris coming to the stars here first. Good evening, Luke and Nick. Hope all is well. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, Chris. Good to see you. Click those little thumbs up, y'all. Thank you so much for the support, Chris. Good to see. Yeah, and these we got Flex040679 saying the hats are nice. So we got Chris rocking merch in the picture as well. We got a lot of good stuff in here. It's a lot of fun.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're right. Corey Lindsley was a big splash signing for the Chargers a couple years ago, coming over from Green Bay. I think he went to San Diego State. Don't quote me on that one, but a solid center prospect there. And Matt Filer, though, if he's out and you're playing Michael Schofield at right guard and you're playing Storm Norton, I think from Toledo at right tackle, this offensive line could struggle. They're not going to really be great. And I also don't think they're very good at the point of attack. The games the Broncos have lost this year have been, at least recently, have been some teams with dominant offensive lines and really good run games. I don't think you're going to get that from the Chargers this week. So maybe that means the Broncos can play tight coverage and not have to worry about the box as much and slow this offense down.
He was an Ohio State guy.
Corey Lindsley?
Okay. Yeah. And I started thinking, and the reason I wanted to bring that up, man, Michigan, Ohio State, right? We're talking about that a little bit today. Then you start thinking about all the Ohio State players on this Broncos roster. And all the Ohio State players in the league. I mean, you see these Big Ten guys and your Iowa cats. You Iowa people are everywhere, by the way, man. I always have to say that. But Lawrence Rivera coming in with some more support. Appreciate you so much, man. Happy Thanksgiving. The Bills should give us Mitch Trubisky. They don't need him, and he made the Bears coaching look good. Oh, Lawrence calling his shot. Already looking for another quarterback. Mitch Trubisky. You want a piece of Mitch?
Can I get him for 1 year, $4.5 million, the Teddy special? Because then I would be interested in maybe him competing and maybe a young quarterback behind him. But do I want to pay Mitchell Trubisky $15 million a year or $10 million a year for 3 years? No, thank you.
I think that's interesting, though, that Lawrence is bringing that up, Nick, because you see the Ryan Tannehill thing and people are always talking, maybe you get a revitalized career somewhere else. That's interesting that Lawrence is thinking that way, because I think Broncos country is starting to feel conditioned thinking about that retread quarterback. Maybe that's in this case a highly drafted first round quarterback. Can he be have a career resurrection with that right coach? Who's that coach going to be? It's not going to be Pat Shurmur. It's not going to, if it's Dan Quinn, who's the offensive coordinator going to be? I mean, so many different things are coming into play. And, whether or not the Broncos are going to be in the hunt for Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, or that next level of quarterbacks, Matt Ryan, maybe a Mitch Trubisky, maybe, that cat from Washington. I don't want him, Heineke, but those things, man, Broncos country are used to recycled quarterbacks. So I don't blame Lawrence for throwing that out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's on a slow deal right now, but he went there to get right. It's the Jameis Winston going to New Orleans to taking a small deal to work under Peyton. That was apparently a lot of talk with him going under Dabble. And also people saw this year that maybe Mitch Trubisky wasn't as much the issue as it was Matt Nagy in Chicago. So I could see Trubisky getting a decent size deal. I wouldn't want to be that team. I just think, especially committing to him too long. No, would I take a lottery ticket for one season? Maybe. But then it's the same exact scenario as, taking a lottery ticket with Teddy Bridgewater, and here we go again. But back to the Broncos game coming up here. Now, not the too far down the line with the
quarterbacks and everything. It's all quarterback. It's all quarterback, Nick. I got in trouble earlier. Broncos mad at me for saying, they're going to trade Jerry Jeudy. And look, that's just a theory, man. You can't pay 3 wide receivers. So of course, I don't think the Broncos are going to, say, yeah, we're actively looking at trading Jerry Jeudy, but change is coming. We just don't know what it is. We don't know who the owner's going to be. We don't know who the head coach is going to be. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. I mean, so many unknowns. The only thing we have, Nick, is right in front of us. It's the Chargers tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. And luckily for Jeudy and this Broncos team also, the deals of Patrick and Sutton are easy as heck to get out of after like 1-2 seasons where they could move on. It'd be almost no dead cap, or they could trade him and it would be almost no dead cap. So I'm honestly pretty shocked that they took those deals, given that they don't have, obviously they're getting financial security because they're getting paid NFL money, but they don't have the security on the back end with the huge dead cap hits that you see with some other deals. So pretty interesting here. The Chargers. The one thing the Chargers have in this game that everybody should be really excited about is that the Chargers' run defense is absolutely trash. They are some of the worst run defenses in the NFL this year. They used a first-round pick. They traded up for a linebacker 2 years ago, and he's been dreadful out there. He's running around with his chicken, like a chicken with his head cut off. Good athlete, doesn't read the field at all. And that is Kenneth Murray. Speaking, I see an Oklahoma comment here. Kenneth Murray has been struggling there. Drew Tranquil has been okay in space, but he can't hold up at the point of attack. Jerry Tillery, first-round pick for the Chargers, cannot hang against a double team for anything. You run right at number 97. He's not very good there. And they're playing backups on the defensive line. So as long as this Broncos defense doesn't come out there and get their teeth kicked in like they did against the Eagles, this Broncos team should be able to move the football and possess the football and run the ball efficiently, which should be good as long as the defense also shows up. The run game, you can't win football games with just the run game if your defense is getting boat raced in the first half.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. I wrote about it on milehighhuddle.com. One of my keys to victory: exploit that frail rush defense the Bolts have, because it's horrible. It's ranked dead last. They've relinquished almost 1,500 yards on the ground. That's averaging almost 4.7 yards a carry, 90 first downs and 13 touchdowns just on the ground. That's atrocious. This should be a game that is set up for Melvin Gordon to get back maybe at his old team. But Javonte Williams, it is time to go, buddy. Pat Shurmur, will he do it? We don't know. He seems to panic a little bit. God forbid the Chargers get ahead. And you're talking about that defense. How are the offense going to get the defense off the hook? I mean, for years, we've seen the defense trying to get the offense off the hook. I think the Chargers are ranked number 7 on offense per PFF. But so I just worry about that, Nick, because it's like, run the ball. That's the recipe to beat this team or stay competitive at least. But what happens if the Chargers score first? Vic Fangio and the Broncos have lost the last 19 games when they've struggled behind double-digit points by halftime. It is absolutely atrocious. They seem to panic both on offense and defense, and it really bothers me. It's such a topsy-turvy game, and turnovers. I mean, we saw the Raiders and the Cowboys. What an exciting game! Was that the most watched Thanksgiving football game ever, I think is what I read. But you saw so many ups, so many downs. It's just the ultimate dramatic game, Nick, because you don't know where it's going to go. But so many times I'm afraid that Shermer just wants to hit that panic button and let's go wide. Hey, we just paid receivers. We got to use them. We got to use them. Yes, you can use them. Don't forget, Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton, they like to block. And that's part of the reason that George Payton paid him. He likes that. And he wants to build around football players, not just diva wide receivers.
Yeah, and just to that point, and we got stars coming in here from Peter Middleton. Do we even have backup tackles? There's Anderson and Fleming starting, but then who? Worried,
Ooh,
LOL.
hey,
Honestly, is it Dalton Reisner? Does he kick out there? I don't even know who would be the next dress tackle. Is
Quinn Bailey.
Is it Quinn Bailey? Okay, I was about to say Quinn Bailey, but
I think it'd be Quinn Bailey, and that he was also, so that's another part of the news that came down in the wire. The team elevated Quinn Bailey. He is an offensive tackle as a standard elevation from the practice squad to the active roster. He's sitting at 6'6", 323 pounds, number 75. He's a first-year offensive lineman from Arizona State who's appeared in one game with Denver in each of the last 3 seasons. So he's not a first-year offensive lineman in the NFL. He's just first year in Denver, maybe. I feel like that's his second year, but nonetheless, offensive tackle, yeah, it's starting to get thin back there for some of these boys. And Dalton Reisner, he does have the ability to play tackle. We saw him at right tackle at Kansas State for a decent amount of time, but that's a really good point as well. I mean, depth. Depth. What happens if another offensive lineman goes down? I don't think Garrett Bowles is going to go tomorrow.
Nope, nor is Massey. Garrett Bowles and Massey are out. So Joey Bosa watch, folks. Oh my God. Do you want to hear a crazy stat? Joey Bosa's never batted down a pass in his career in the NFL.
He doesn't have to when he gets sacks.
That's true. But you think somebody with as active and
that's interesting though. How'd you come across that one?
I think I just saw it on Twitter. Maybe he has in the last couple of weeks, but last I saw, he had never batted down a pass in his whole career. Somebody look on that. But Joey Bosa, man, this is one to talk about why people prize edge rushers so much and why, somebody like Von Miller gets paid so much, or there's some that are taken so high in the draft. Why somebody would take an edge rusher over, like, say, a good safety prospect. Edge rushers like Joey Bosa can take over a game and win a game like this single-handedly take over a game. So this is going to be very tough. I am scared to death of what Joey Bosa can do against Cameron Fleming, who just does not have the ability to hang with good edge rushers, foot speed wise. And I think that's going to limit the Broncos offense as well. And you're going to hear people screaming, Pat Shermer, you're going to hear people screaming, Teddy, throw it deep. Chargers are living in match quarters. They're living in 2 high safety shells, and you don't trust your tackles for bleep against Joey Bosa. So what does that mean? You're going to see checkdowns. I mean, it's either that or you're putting your quarterback in harm's way and putting the ball in harm's way. Sometimes you have to play to what the opponent does and what their scheme is.
Well, and that's you're exactly right. I mean, you start talking about Staley, right? Well, he's a Vic Fangio disciple, if you want to use that term, coming from the Fangio defensive tree. And one thing that Staley does really well is the pass defense. It's bizarre. He's willing to surrender on the run, and then he's got his secondary tuned up okay. And you're going to see Chris Harris Jr. out there tomorrow, folks, another former Bronco. But real quick, Travis, our guy coming in, asking about Austin Schlottman in response to the question about our offensive tackles. Now, this cat's 6'6", 300 pounds. He's tall, and they love to play him inside. I don't know why. They love to play him at guard. I saw him at center a little bit in training camp this year. Maybe he swings out as a tackle a little bit, then you've got real problems. Because if we're talking about Cam Fleming and his ability to open up his hips and surrender all kinds of yards, let alone leverage to Bosa, if you have an Austin Schlottman out there, or even, God forbid, you do have to move Reisner, which I don't think they're going to do because it is easier to protect that inside. And Lloyd Cushenberry, he's got to step it up too. I like the young man, but you know what? You've got to love the production. And I don't love the production out of Lloyd right now. I like it. I don't love it. So I don't see them moving Dalton around, but it's tough when you start looking at what Mike Munchak has to do. But you're exactly right. Staley's got this defensive secondary pretty tuned up. If Teddy thinks he's going to go yard against this defense, he's wrong. He's not going to do it. I'm really interested too, Nick. We haven't got to talk in a little bit. How is Teddy Bridgewater going to be received tomorrow? I mean, like it's one of those things, man, where I feel like he committed the cardinal sin. And you know me, if Melvin Gordon didn't drop that ball, I'm just on my Melvin Gordon, thing. But he didn't drop that ball, we're not here. But look, man, that cardinal sin, it was weird. The response was weird. Everybody, short-term memory, people are pissed about that
Yeah.
thing. And, it's still a 5-5 team, and they're not as bad as we think they are. They're definitely not as good as we think they are. But how do you think Teddy's going to be received?
I think come out, the Broncos go 3 and out, he throws it short of the sticks, the Boo Birds will be out quickly. I really do think that. And it's frustrating, and I get what, the fans spend a lot of time and effort and money to go see the product. So if they want to boo, then God bless them. You have that right as the fan. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I do hope that people can at least see maybe it is part of the scheme here. I mean, the Broncos last week were right in that game. They had all the momentum in the world. And I know that it was a frustrating game from Teddy, but he also had not lost it for them. And until that fumble that went the other way, the Broncos were right in that. I mean, that was the strategy. And the strategy was working. I mean, because you were so limited and you were getting whipped at the edge position. So what do? You're calling the quick passes to neutralize that pass rusher. Maybe that means you're not taking the deep shots. But you have to win with what you have, right? That's what good coaches do. That's what good teams do. You don't have the world's best quarterback right now. He's limited. So you have to lean into that. We got EJ coming in saying Judy should eat up Chris Harris Jr. in the slot. You would think so. I'm a big Chris Harris Jr. fan, but Chris Harris Jr., he looks a little bit like he's hit that cornerback wall. From what I've seen, he's given up a lot of space, a lot of separation. And Judy, another week healthier with the bye week on that ankle. I would love to see Judy cook this week. It's all about Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick getting these big contracts. But I would love to see Judy be like, you know what? They got paid, but I'm the first round pick here. Feed me.
I want somebody to ask Judy about his cryptic tweets. That whole walking away thing. I don't know, man. I love this kid's talent. I love his work ethic. He was my MVP of training camp. I picked him to be the MVP the whole year. And I sometimes think he feels like he's the forgotten man. This could be that game. It was awful last year against the Chargers in LA. He had all those drops, and he came back the next week with a vengeance. And I'd absolutely love to see it. You want to see what your players can do when they're screwing up. You want to see how they respond to adversity. And Jerry Jeudy is showing that he can respond to adversity. And right now, you got to wonder what your future is with the team as well. That future starts tomorrow with the Chargers. You're on your rookie contract. You haven't proven anything in this league, but there are a ton of expectations for Jerry Jeudy. I will say this. If Chris Harris Jr. is put on the slot with Jerry Jeudy, that's a coaching breakdown right there. I mean, that shouldn't even – I don't like it at all. Maybe if you're playing really, really deep, but we're talking in the slot, you're giving up 5 or 10 yards if you're playing off line of scrimmage anyway. Man, I like that comment a lot from EJ. Judy should eat up CHJ. It's always cool when you see Broncos coming back to play their former team, but when it's a divisional opponent, oh man, I just don't have a lot of love for CHJ right now. Just because he's a Charger, no, bad blood or anything like that. I'm not in, man. It bothers me to see him there.
Yeah, it does bother me to see him there, but I'm still pulling for him as not in this game, but just in general. It'd be nice to see him push his way to obviously Broncos Ring of Fame. Maybe further, probably not. I know he revolutionized that slot cornerback spot being that good and inside outside, but maybe a little bit before his time as far as value goes. We got Mile High Truth coming in here saying, do you guys think Melvin Gordon starts after fumbling away the Eagles game? This is a tough question because Melvin Gordon, I think typically you would not give him the ball, but this is an extra juice game against the Chargers at home where, I mean, if it wasn't this situation, maybe he's not starting, but because it's the Chargers and everything going in that, maybe they even make him a captain. There's some emotional buy-in there and be like, this is a team that didn't even want me. God. You guys paid me. I don't think the captains mean diddly, really, coming into the game. But I hope that Williams gets more carries. As long as he is not getting stuffed in the backfield, that should not be an issue against this Chargers team. So really a game where it sets up nicely for Williams. Again, as long as the defense is not getting killed in the first half.
Yeah, MHT, that was a great question, man. I really, really love it. And be sure to go over to milehighhuddle.com. Our guy, Thomas Hall, has an article right now that was really, really well written about why Melvin Gordon should be pounding the rock a little bit more. So an interesting take. It's not that he's a Javonte Williams hater or anything like that, but go read it. I loved it. Shout out to Tom. Peter Middleton, our guy, coming back in, saying the Broncos always have a chance against the Chargers. It's the Chargers. Our wide receivers are going to make some touchdowns. Absolutely love it. Mark Schlereth always says something that I love to hear. Chargers going to Charger. Raiders going to Raider. They tend to kick themselves in the foot a little bit, and who are we as Broncos country to poke fun at that? But it does happen, right? It always feels like for some bizarre reason, the Chargers have some SCLSU mud dog to them where they're going to screw up in a bizarre way with special teams like the Broncos, or, just it doesn't go right. They started so hot and then they stumble. Even back to Phillip Rivers' time, heck, even Drew Brees when he was with the Chargers as well. It makes you wonder what's going on with them. But it's hard for me to completely subscribe to that because they do have their head coach. They have their quarterback. I mean, they've got so much more than the Broncos just in those two departments. But it will be a sham. It will be a shame if the Broncos get boat waxed in this game. The Chargers are a good football team. There is no reason you should be embarrassed in front of your fans 2 out of the last 3 weeks, with one of those weeks being a bye.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything's right in front of you. You hope that they can get it together. And this Bronco, you talked about Lloyd Cushenberry just a bit ago, maybe not being a true plus player on that offensive line, but I would also counter that the last 2-3 weeks have been the best games of Lloyd Cushenberry's career. So positive momentum that direction. Same with Dalton Reisner. He best games he's had since his rookie season in these last few weeks.
You're right. Reisner has really responded. I was getting ready to really go after him, and it's hard because I like Dalton. Who doesn't like Dalton? No one wants to go after the guy, right? But you got to be honest, and you're right, Nick. I mean, you do have momentum with that interior offensive line. So while the tackles might be unknown right now, feel good about Dalton Reisner.
I would not say Cameron Fleming's unknown. Unfortunately, we know a good bit about him, but you got to just try to do your best to protect him. And that probably means not a lot of deep drops, not a lot of slow developing pass plays, because if you put Joey Bosa against Cam Fleming, Joey Bosa is going to beat you. I mean, just pretty simple. I mean, sometimes great players go up against bad ones. We don't need to see Khalil Mack versus Michael Schofield 2.0, because that's what it could be with Cam Fleming out there.
That was awful.
You can't put yourself in that situation. You just can't. Lawrence Rivera putting us in a good situation, supporting the show as always. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Lawrence. Hope you had a great one. Hope everyone had a good one. I've always wondered if we have too many expectations from rookies that get hyped up by colleges. How good are these scouts? I think it is. I could go way into depth on this one. I'll make it simple, sweet though. People have way too much expectations for rookies because they get so much light during the draft cycle that people are very well aware of them why aren't they producing day one? When in reality, draft picks, especially outside the top 50 first picks in the draft, are multi-year investments. So like people are like, why aren't we seeing Baron Browning this year? Typically, why aren't you seeing, let's say Jamar Johnson right now, another one. Broncos class this year is against expectations for how good they've been immediately and how big their roles are immediately. But those kind of guys, they probably weren't even supposed to be playing this season. Caden Stearns, probably not even supposed to be getting reps this season. That's more about what they look like year 2, year 3, because that's just an investment, right? You're investing in those positions and hopefully they can come of age. Quinn Miners, another one you shouldn't have seen this season. But they're being called upon. They're looking pretty good, all things considered. But that, I think it's just a difference of expectation, and we need to have a more, not we in general, and you guys are, but like just a more educated fan base where it's like, okay, this is a 4th round rookie draft pick. He's not playing his rookie season. That's not a bust. If he's not even activated the rookie season, he's not a bust yet. Even heck, McTelvin Najim, 95th overall pick, end of the 3rd round. The Broncos haven't had a lot of injuries on the interior defensive line for his position, so he's been inactivated. I would give him another full offseason before I would even throw out the bust word on him, because that's the type of developmental curve it takes for some of those guys, especially picked that far down in the draft.
Yeah, that was a really good question, Lawrence. I know, Nick scouts, I scout, we evaluate talents, and not just on YouTube either. There's something to be said for actually putting some miles on the road and seeing these prospects in person. And for myself, and where I get caught up in, full disclosure, where I get too emotionally invested with players is when you are asked to compare them to former players, and you start looking at former receivers, Rod Smith, and you're wondering, you're looking for the next Rod Smith, you're looking for your next favorite player. And that's so hard to do because these guys develop at different levels of the game and different speeds. That's something that you have no control over as a scout. So I think a lot of times we get so wrapped up in the story of the player as well, not just the X's and O's. You hear about Jonathan Cooper overcoming all these irregular heart rhythms and conditions and celebrating with his local kids. That's a great story. People want that young man to do well. Von Miller gets traded. Okay, is Jonathan Cooper going to step in and be the next Von Miller? I mean, we get emotionally attached to these guys. And I think sometimes with those rookies, and especially when they're traded up for, you look at Javonte Williams, you look at Quinn Miners, where he was just drafted leaps and bounds where he was projected to go. We fall in love with those players. And I think that was a really, really good question. But let's get to our guy, Pete Middleton, because this was a really, really good point, and I wanted to be sure that we brought this up. Pete saying, name a top 2019 pick for the Broncos that's playing well. Now, name 2021 rookies that are playing well. Peyton is doing absolutely fantastic, and I really, really like it because you're starting to figure out, or at least get a sense of who George Paton is as a GM. You see his impact, at least with one draft class, through 11 weeks, 12 weeks. I mean, it's a small sample size, but it's what we've got. You started to see what he liked to do in free agency. I don't know if that was so much what he wanted to do as it was to supplement Vic, but you're trying to figure out George Paton. What do you make of the re-signings, the draft class? I mean, what do you make of Pete's comparison? 2019, your guy, Noah Fant, first rounder, versus 2021, my guy, PS2. We'll just throw that out there real quick because that's a good comparison. And, people are still after Elway. I get it. But Paton seems to be doing pretty well for a rookie GM.
Just to be fair, my guy in 2019 draft was Jeffrey Simmons, who looks like
a beast, a freaking beast. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say for the 2019 class, and I agree with James here. You go back 2 years ago, we were hyping up the 2019 class, halfway through their rookie season, being like, oh my God, these guys are all going to be all pros. We got the next franchise quarterback, one of the best athletic tight ends in football, blah, blah, blah. Time passes and they haven't taken those steps that people think. Football players in general, this isn't this linear growth year after year, right? They don't typically just get better every single season. Yeah. So maybe you see somebody like Javonte Williams stagnate. He's been really good, doesn't take that next step. Or maybe Patrick Surtain doesn't take another step or something like that, where everybody's thinking, oh, just every single week they get better and better. Every year they get better and better. It doesn't always work that way. So while the returns have been really good early on, and I think it's more so the volume of the returns, like how many, it's the numbers that have hit and been meaningful contributors. I think for the Peyton, how deep they've been in that class is the biggest thing for me. But as far as this class being amazing, I want to see 2 or 3 years down the road. They're good right now, but it's an incomplete grade.
Yeah, and it's all about context of when players are asked to do things. I would argue, now I don't have the comparisons in front of me, but Dalton Reisner, we know he was part of that 2019 draft class, played right away, came into the league as a starter. But I would argue that this year, rookies have been forced into roles a lot more than in 2019 based off of injuries and that funny little bug and other circumstances that are currently happening and operating in the 2021 NFL. So it is hard to completely compare and grade based off of context. I mean, it's still bizarre to see Juwan Winfrey with the Packers. I mean, he had a great training camp one year and then completely fell off the rails, and you just never hear from this guy. You look at Justin Hollins, not even on the roster anymore. So you don't know which rookies this year aren't going to be here next year. I mean, if this class is all that it was toted up to be, maybe you see some rookies, sophomores next year traded. Maybe you hear some other teams calling about George Paton's guys. Minnesota, they like to deal depth pieces. They like to deal 6th, 7th rounders and other players of special teams notoriety. So that's something that you ultimately got to look at. But our guy James coming in real quick with some support. Appreciate you so much, James. Happy Thanksgiving. Speaking of disappointing draft choices seemingly not working out, is it too early to call the 2019 class what it is? Let's start off with the 2019 class. Now, all jokes aside, Noah Fant, I was disappointed in the pick, not the player. I didn't like the tight end. Noah Fant, I think, has improved year after year, but he's not where he should be. I wrote about it in one of my keys to victory. It's now or never for Noah. Like, come on, man. Like, you can do this. And that's the most frustrating thing for me and Noah. He's taught me patience, but my patience is just about up. I don't think he's a bust. I don't want to. I called him that way too premature, and I do take it back, but I understand why Broncos country is frustrated with Noah Fant as the first round pick. But I mean, tight end in the first round, Nick, I mean, come on, man. That's more of a GM thing for me than it is Noah Fant. You know, he didn't choose to come to Denver, and I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but when you take a tight end in the first round, hey.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess on the other hand, Noah Fant is still 23 years old. He had an ankle injury in the Seahawks game, the preseason game that he had issues with. Also, the sudden loss of his mom before the season. So, he's not one that I am. Everybody's like, "Oh, what can we get for Noah Fant?" Like, you're selling low right now for a guy who has tools and traits for it to click for him for a position that's more based on the tools and traits for it clicking. It's not like the quarterback position where it's such a weird concoction of all these things. Typically, bigger, faster, stronger wins at the tight end position and all these other positions besides maybe quarterback and these kickers spots. But I would not give up on him just yet in that sense. But he's been a disappointment. I think it is important to also, when you're looking at the 2019 class, to have the context of you went back from 10 to 20. How good has Devin Bush been? He's been terrible. What a terrible pick for the Steelers.
Terrible?
He's been bad, man. He's one of the worst linebackers in coverage in football. And to move up into the top 10 for him is terrible investment.
You knew that coming in, right? He wasn't Devin White.
People, he tested side by side numbers wise, but he's just athleticism does not equal coverage ability in the NFL.
True.
There's a lot of other things to it.
You wouldn't call him a bust though. You're just he's
for the 10th overall pick,
underperformed as well, right? Are you going to say Noah Fant's been disappointing, but Devin Bush is a bust?
If the Broncos traded up to number 10 overall and took Noah Fant, and he's been like he has been, then he's probably a bust. But moving from 10 to 20, getting the excess capital and not paying him as much,
and getting Dalton Reisner,
and the ability to move back up and take a shot on Drew Lock, even if it hasn't worked out, I think that's good process. It's a different conversation when you're moving up into the top 10 for a non-quarterback. They and especially a non-position of value, which is the linebacker, which is the tight end, compared to some other position. So I would say the parameters surrounding Devin Bush and going up to get him, he would be a bust. And look how bad the Steelers, they don't have a quarterback. Their offensive line is dreadful. Their defense is starting to get pretty old quickly, and they traded excess resources to go get a top 10 linebacker who can't cover. I don't know. I don't think it was good process at all by the Steelers, and a pretty good process by the Broncos outside of taking a tight end in the first round. I don't know about that, but the trading back in the excess resource. You also get Lloyd Cushenberry with that trade back. Do you include that in the 2019 draft class as well? Because you got that extra capital, all stuff that matters.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Colin kind of weighing in to your point as well, saying a first round pick should be an impact player. And I completely agree with this. And, we like to think these first round picks should be captains, by now. They should be, Noah Fant should be a Darren Waller type player right now. He should be wanting to challenge Travis Kelce, and it's not there, and it's frustrating to see. So, to your point, those first round picks, they've got to be impact players, and the ones that are like Devin White, you see it and you're just like, holy cow, that's paying dividends. That team knew what they were getting. And, sometimes they're pleasant surprises, but nonetheless, the Los Angeles Chargers are in town to play the Denver Broncos. It's the second divisional game for the Broncos, and it's time to go. No more playing NFC East teams. These games matter, Nick, and Denver's technically in last place, but what, a game or two out? This division is so close, and we talk about this team being right there in the thick of things. I know it doesn't feel like it, but this team is technically in the playoff hunt, and it could be Vic Fangio's final stand, really, is a head coach in this division. It's make or break. Those whispers are there. No playoffs. You're not coming back. We all understand that. We were kind of talking about that before the season even started, but it's time to go for Fangio and company. This is an AFC West rivalry. Your fans are starting to mentally and with their cash check out, if you will. You got to win tomorrow. No ifs, ands, or buts. I don't care if it's by 1 point or by 20. I doubt it'll be that, but it's just, you got to show up. You got to be competitive, and you've got to just man up and play this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a big game. I really do hope the fans show out. We'll see, but even still, the Broncos turn out the noise, go out there and play like you did against Dallas. That means, easier said than done, but that means defense going out there, getting off the field, being aggressive, getting after the quarterback, and keeping him out of the end zone. That's something too. This Broncos team, Vic Fangio, the bend don't break. Bend don't break is fine if your offense is keeping up on the other side, and also you're keeping the team out of the end zone. It's fine. We can argue that in the offseason about more of the specifics there. But they've been in the last few weeks and the last few losses Broncos have been terrible in the red zone. They're actually the worst ranked red zone run defense in football this season, which is shocking from a Vic Fangio defense. And it shows that they don't really have the mass of the horses maybe in that front seven, that front triangle, the defensive line and the linebackers. So could be an issue. Luckily, the Chargers, again, they're injured on the offensive line. They don't really have a true 230-pound, monster running back. So maybe this is a game where it matches up okay for Denver. I mean, we could see that if the Broncos get a lead and their defense is playing fine, the run game can take them home. Really can. So
you're right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Well, and Austin Eckler, it's a homecoming for him. I mean, he lived here, Western State, and Colorado boy and everything else. He's going to have his family here. And as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, I'm tired of the Broncos being the get right game for all these teams. And, the Broncos just lost one and the Chargers won one, but so what? Anything can truly happen on any given Sunday. It's the parity that is the NFL. And it's bizarre, Nick, when you see some of these big dogs going down to the really bizarre, terrible teams in the NFL. It happens. We teased, is Denver a trap game for Dallas? And it's so bizarre to hear that Broncos upset over Dallas continually brought up every Cowboys game by like Troy Aikman, Joe Buck, all the league's best, because that was truly a shocker. Well, you know what else would be a shocker? If the Broncos beat the Chargers at home in Denver tomorrow. They're not supposed to win this game. I have not looked at the books yet, but I assume that the Broncos are an underdog at home. And that's not good. I could be completely wrong. I'm sure Scott's checking for me right now, but you're not supposed to lose games at home, especially to the Chargers. It's like another one of those cardinal sins. We talked about Teddy not wanting to tackle. Well, losing football games in Denver generally gets head coaches fired. I don't think that's going to happen with Vic Fangio, but that same bad taste in the mouth, it could still be there if the Broncos choke.
Yeah, and absolutely. Travis Weber, real quick. Devin Lloyd, he's my number 2 linebacker right now. Utah kind of does an edge off-ball hybrid. He's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, but with his size and his ability to play the run in the box and set the edge when he wants to drop down to linebacker as well, he'll be drafted pretty high. I don't know if he's going to be a first-round pick, at least get first-round grade. He'll probably go in the first round. He's my number 2 linebacker, though, behind Georgia's Nakobe Dean. Lawrence Rivera coming in here saying, how is Vaughn able to be our best player at his age? Where are our picks going, or is that watered down? How is Vaughn able to be our best player at his age? Vaughn's a freak, I guess. He's number 2 overall pick, and he moves differently than a lot of players. I mean, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, most likely. And even though we always, the end is nigh, it's coming. Father time waits for nobody except for Tom Brady, whatever, who knows about that one. God damn it.
He's a freak too.
God, Tom Brady. But TB12 method, right? But Von Miller was still, a freak and getting after it. But he wasn't the same Von Miller as he was during that Super Bowl run and some of those peak seasons as well, but still a really good player. Where are our picks going? Lord knows what the Broncos are going to do with those picks. They now have the ability, though, to buy in and sit at the table when it comes to veteran quarterbacks this free agency cycle. Before, maybe not, and having to give up a lot of picks. Now you can be a little bit more aggressive and sit at the table, which is going to matter. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, who knows? Maybe trade up for a quarterback again, who knows? But again, you can do that now. Before it would have been really costly. Now you have excess capital to do that, and it doesn't hurt as bad.
The hardest thing right now is being patient, because change is coming. You just don't know what the results are going to be. And George Paton was hired for the long haul. I believe he will be the only one here when a new owner comes in, and George Paton is going to be the right-hand guy who's already got the rebuild started. He may not want to admit it, but I feel that the Broncos are in a rebuild. They're not in a let's just tear everything down. They're in a what can we get to further our opportunity here in 6 months in the offseason. That is a very short window to make significant change, and I know it doesn't feel like it, especially coming from the fan side of things, but just look at where George Paton has already made a huge impact. We talk about the rookies that are going to be playing tomorrow. Start looking at the depth pieces as well. I know some of the free agent signings like a Ronald Darby, the lucrative contract, things like that, it hasn't broke the Broncos. So even some of the things that haven't totally come to fruition, George Paton hasn't really struck out yet. So he's in it for the long haul. We just have to be patient. As we wrap up the show, let's get to, I want to say, is it Ivan or Yvonne? I'm not completely sure. Correct me on that. Saying, hey, guys, today's a good day to be an optimist. And I believe tomorrow we're going to beat the Bolts. I absolutely love it. The Broncos can win this game. It's not like people think that the Broncos are going to go in and get boat raced. It's a possibility, but the Broncos are coming off of a bye. They should feel rested. They should feel re-energized. They've got some two richer young players in that locker room right now who I know will feel like they have a lot to prove. There are two proud men in Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton. And while I'm not advocating for them to run go routes and Teddy to just throw the ball up there, you see what Tim Patrick can do as just a football player. You see what Cortland Sutton as a second round draft pick is willing to do on the edge in terms of blocking. Those things get me stoked as a fan, as a scout, all those sorts of things, because you can't coach those things. Those guys want to do it or they don't. And I think you're going to see 14 and 81 come out tomorrow, regardless of the plays, regardless of how many times their numbers are called. Try to lead this team to the next part of Broncos football.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100% there. And also it's Yvonne. So shout out to Yvonne there.
Thanks,
gotta
Yvonne.
believe, man. They gotta believe the Broncos are going to win this one and play some meaningful football and maybe beat the Chiefs for the first time since week 2, 2015. Woof. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But guys, I think it's about time that we wrap up. Thank you guys for joining us so much for joining us today. Shout out to everybody enjoying.
Let's get some predictions. Let's get some predictions real quick. Predictions, yes. Doug. I'm going 24-20 with the Chargers. My thing right now, I think it's going to be a competitive game, but when you look at Pat Shurmur and the resistance to run the ball when you're behind, I think that getting behind in this game is something that is going to happen just because you've got a quarterback that can absolutely deal. You've got a head coach with Staley who is familiar with Fangio's defense. It's the defense he came up with. I feel like this guy was probably working with Herbert a little extra this week on what to expect in Vic Fangio's defensive scheme. But I think the biggest thing out of this game, the Broncos stay competitive. It's a loss, so it's not going to feel good, and it's not going to be an awesome Monday, but it's a competitive loss, and things should hopefully be trending up in the right direction, at least in the locker room.
Yeah, absolutely. We also got Base Case coming in here, $5 saying, I doubt Rodgers or Wilson want to come to Denver when they don't know who the owner will be. If they come to Denver, that's definitely a factor that you have to worry about, but you would assume that the team and George Payton and whatever made overtures to them where it's like, listen, we went out and got you. How stupid would it be to like go out and get you and be like, we made that investment, which is going to probably limit us to compete after you're done, but we're just going to sit in our hands, whatever, but screw you. So
yeah.
I think if you have the weapons here, you'd have overtures from Payton or whoever, and they'd have to approve it anyway. So I don't think that's probably too big of a view, right? They're going to care more about the roster and who's here and the coaching staff as opposed to what the owner's going to be.
Base Case, that's really, really good because I would say this. I think George Payton has got, he doesn't have the experience, but he's got the autonomy to do what he wants to do right now. And with one of those quarterbacks, either being Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, the first thing that they're going to want if they're brought to a new team is a new deal. And who's the man that's going to do that? George Payton. He's not going to be paying him out of his account. He's going to be paying him out of the Broncos account. So we don't know what that new owner is going to look like. I would actually prefer an owner that's not completely involved, just because I think that's why you hired George Payton. And sometimes the best ownership teams in the league are those people that are not completely involved. Raiders, Cowboys, listen up, and you start to see that. So that's why George Payton was brought here. But Base Case, I absolutely love the point because we don't know. The future is unknown, and that is scary. Nick, how do you got the game going tomorrow?
I think that Justin Herbert is the type of quarterback that if he goes unconscious, good luck. You have to have your own type of quarterback that can go shot for shot with him when he's in that type of mode. And I don't think the Broncos have that right now. Unfortunately, I think Teddy's, a quarterback in that like 13th to 22nd range any given week. But if Justin Herbert's playing, top 3 quarterback level, which is in him, it's going to be hard for the Broncos to keep up. And I think Herbert's going to step up and have a good game. So I think the Broncos lose this one. I also think the Broncos are going to struggle to get off the field defensively. I think Herbert's going to convert on third down time and time again. And that's going to lead to a lower possession game, especially with the Broncos rushing the football. They're going to look up. There's going to be like we've only possessed the ball 4 times and it's the first half is over. And we've only been in the red zone twice, that kind of thing. So I have the Chargers winning this game 26-16. I think there's going to be some exchange of field goals here. I don't think either of these teams' offensive lines, I don't think the Broncos are going to get the red zone enough to cross pay dirt. And I don't think the Chargers are going to have the offensive line power and running game to cross pay dirt when they get to the red zone also. So a little bit different there, how they don't convert, but 26-16, I do think the Chargers win. The point spread is 2.5. If the Broncos get a lead though, man, look out. They can win this one pretty easily.
Are they the dog?
Iowa. I just saw somebody talking about Iowa in the comments. Denver is the dog, 2.5 point favorite, or dogs to Chargers at home. Yep.
Wow, at home, man. Broncos country, come on, show up. I'm excited to see, like we talked about, Nick, what Broncos country looks like tomorrow, what the overall energy and reception is for Teddy Bridgewater. This team's committed. This team is committed to Teddy. They're committed to Tom McMahon. They're committed to Vic Fangio, at least for the next, 5-6 weeks, and then we will see where it goes. But guys, that is a wrap for MHI tonight. Time always flies. You can find Nick and myself on Twitter. First of all, we would really appreciate it if you subscribe to MHI. That's Twitter at MHI_pod. He's at Nick Kendell MHH. I'm at Luke Patterson LP. Get on over to the mothership on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. We talked a little bit earlier. Get your swag on. Grab yourself a gift for the holidays that are coming up. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcast, on Spotify, iTunes. Give us a like, a subscribe if you're listening on Facebook, YouTube, or wherever you get your pods, because we appreciate everybody. This was a huge, great show. I love the energy. I'm very thankful for all of you. Thankful for you, Nick. I'm thankful for you, Scott. Always have a blast with you guys. And Broncos football tomorrow, baby. Let's go. We can turn things around. I can't stand the Chargers. I'm not going to say I hate them like I hate the Raiders, but I don't like them. I've never liked them. And I just want this team to show out.
Yep. Let's hope it's a good game. Hopefully no injuries, and hopefully the Broncos can be above 500 after this. But you guys can follow Luke and myself on Twitter. Luke is at Luke Patterson LP, and I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. This is Mile High Insiders. Also follow us at MHI_pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you're on Facebook, make sure you're joining us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and /Mile High Huddle pod. And for our YouTube folks out there, please subscribe, like, and share. Smash that subscribe button, hit the bell notifications. That way you know when we go live. Chad and Zach will go live after the game tomorrow for Huddle Up to respond to the Broncos' hopeful victory over the Los Angeles Chargers. And man, really sets the stage for an awesome game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Broncos got everything they want in front of them. Obviously, we both picked them to lose, but they could win this one, and the rest of the season could be really interesting from there. So let's hope for that. You guys stay safe, be kind, go Broncos.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.